Yeah. And that's what I'm like, yeah, if I were to do it, like he'd have to give me someone besides Devin Singletary, but I don't know who he'd be willing to give. And I wouldn't want Kamara.
All right, so real quick, just you guys help me out, then we can start the podcast. Would you rather have, not saying I don't have any trades out there, but hypothetically, Derrick Henry or Saquon Barclay?
Saquon Barkley.
I was going to say the same. As of right now, if Saquon stays healthy, that's the thing. That's the only thing.
I mean, for both players, you have that concern, I would say.
Yeah, they're both similar, though, where, like, on their offense, they're the guy.
Saquon Barkley, at least theoretically, gets more passing work, which
That's
makes
true.
him safer.
Yeah.
In our PPR, yeah.
Only problem is Saquon's owned by Josh, so I don't even know why I'm considering it. Josh will never trade with me. I don't know. Yeah, or like, I don't know. I don't think Cliff would even consider Jonathan Taylor, even though he's had a slow start to the year. But
yeah.
Or Christian McCaffrey has been disappointing so far.
I don't know if you'd want to move off Derrick Henry for Christian McCaffrey. Like Derrick Henry might get hurt, but Christian McCaffrey will get hurt. So
okay, so just barring injury risks, like say they're both healthy, what would you rather have?
McCaffrey for the PPR.
Yeah.
He hasn't. Yeah, that's true. He's been consistent this year, but he hasn't had his big games like he used to.
Yeah.
But it's just the same thing. It's the potential. If, like, really his one weakness is his health. Like if he was guaranteed to stay healthy, dude, all day.
Yeah.
Who has CMC in our league? Brandon.
Yeah, I think Brandon took the risk.
He's 3-0 though. He probably just wants to stick with what he's got.
Dude, why is it like?
I hate it.
Freaking Brandon.
You're partially responsible, Thomas.
No, I'm
just
not.
like Austin was last year for handing him a free win. Although at least Austin had the bipocalypse excuse.
Okay, I had like life stuff excuse, and either way, even if I started Michael Pittman, put someone to replace him, he still would have beat me by probably like 20 points.
I hate that dick. How's he every year?
Dude,
it's not fair.
Every year, man. Who knows? Maybe he does. Maybe he does his. No, he's putting in the work.
It's not pure luck. I do know that, he's always trying to make trades. He works the waiver wire, so it's not like he just drafts a team, leaves them, and they do great.
But here's the thing. Every year, he's like, here's the thing. Like, yeah, there's skill in the draft and stuff, but in the end, like, I think the first few games are more of a mystery than, mid-season to late season, and he always starts strong. Like, he always goes like 3 or 4-0. So he's good at the draft or something, man.
I could talk real football for 2 hours and then talk fantasy for 2 hours. Like, I could talk about it so long.
All right, so we're live.
All right.
And I know we're like, this is later in Sunday and whatnot, but I want to talk about the Jaguars.
Dude, was it on this show that I called my shot on the Jaguars, or was it in our group thread? I know somewhere out there.
I know you had them as your dark horse, good team. I know you said that sometime. Yeah.
Okay, good. Just so that for the rest of the season, this is my prediction. This is the thing I got right. So just gotta throw that out there.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see how many, because like, I don't know, they're 2-1, and I'm still like, they're not good, but
they shut out the Colts,
but they
who
are
just
good.
And the Colts just beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Look, whether the Jaguars are legit or not, I think one thing is beyond dispute. and that's that Urban Meyer was the worst head coach of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Doug Peterson coming in here, and they're starting hot. Like they're not even have to, really ramp up. They've come in and he's got Trevor Lawrence looking good. Like I think what I really sort of predicted. I don't know if I use this verbiage, but I saw this year Trevor Lawrence having last year's Joe Burrow sort of year. Having that sort of a sophomore year. And so far, they're looking legit.
Yeah, he's really stepping into the position, as a sophomore the right way, where you can already see like his decision making is a little bit better. Like his overall accuracy has gotten a lot better. Not that it was like terrible before, but I think last year it was kind of like he had to be a gunslinger, like to get anything done. Where maybe that's what it is like, he's got, I don't even know what major changes they made over the offseason as far as personnel wise in the offense. I'm sure there were, but it just feels like he's come out like a little bit more confident, doesn't need to be as risky, and it's paying off. I mean, this week it was 28-39, 262 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a good game even for a vet, you know what I mean? Where it's a game, but they're looking like either way, they're looking leaps and bounds better so far this year than they were last.
Oh, yeah. And in a world where everyone thought the Colts for sure had that division on lock without much competition, I mean, they did steal a win from the Chiefs, which is much needed for their season, but Matt Ryan has not looked like the answer, which, that's another one that we may have discussed or may not have, but, I was scratching my head why they thought Matt Ryan was so much better than Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
It's not looking like that's going to be a huge upgrade, but the Jaguars look like they're definitely the team. And personnel, like you brought up, they signed they got Christian Kirk from the Cardinals, which at least I think a lot of people thought they really overpaid for him because he was like the second or third string receiver for them. But
that's right. But they paid him like a lot, wasn't it? Like, they paid him. I remember it being like a lot, like $25 million or something stupid like that.
Way over market value for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But to their credit, so far, him and Trevor Lawrence have had a real connection, and he's producing like a serious receiver, and they look good on both sides of the ball so far. They look legit.
Yeah, they play as a team. Like they overpaid Christian Kirk, but he doesn't like come across as like a me guy. Like everyone has their role, and they all understand it, and they just they've bought into the offense. The defense has bought into the defense, and no one's above one another. Even Trevor Lawrence is pretty humble about being the number 1 overall pick, and they're just going out there to work, and they just play football. They look really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 4 years, $72 million, which I don't know why I was thinking 25. That's like a quarterback salary, but still, that's
big numbers for a guy who doesn't have.
That's great. He's got a good agent.
Years.
Yeah.
He's never been a number 1, and he was good on the Cardinals, but not great.
Okay, so here's my other question with the Jaguars. If they do win the division this year, make a decent playoff run, I don't think they're Super Bowl contender, but they could definitely win a game in the playoffs. I mean, if they win their division. Anyway, if that were to happen, would Doug Peterson's reputation be kind of redeemed from the last little bit?
Well, here's my other thing, which, again, drawing on what I think my opinion was when we discussed the firing of Doug Peterson, I thought that was a stupid move by the Eagles when it happened. He was only 2 2 or 3 seasons removed from taking them to a Super Bowl and bringing home the Lombardi Trophy, and he was dealing with some awful Carson Wentz play that Carson Wentz is being tossed around the league at this point, and it wasn't the coaching that caused Carson Wentz to look bad. So, I was surprised when he was fired. I thought he always was a good coach and did a good job. So I'm not surprised he's having success in Jacksonville. I guess I am surprised that it's kind of just like flipping a light switch compared to how they were last year, because you'd think from where they were at last year it would take some real transition, but they're night and day different. So I think it's cementing his spot as like one of those like staple coaches in the league that's just good at their job. You know what I mean? Some like just one of those veteran head coaches who is reliable, in my opinion.
What did he do last year? Because wasn't he fired 2 years ago?
He didn't coach last year. He just took a year off.
Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah. Who did they lose to? The Jaguars are what, 2-1?
The Jaguars.
Must have been week 1 they lost to.
Yeah, I'm going back. It's week 1 they lost to. Oh, that's right. They lost to the Commanders.
No.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
I mean,
and it went to overtime, didn't it? Let me look.
Because they lost to Carson Wentz.
Didn't they go to overtime?
No. Jacksonville just played. No, the Eagles just played the Commanders. Sorry, the Eagles.
Yeah.
Just I was getting
the Eagles stumped the Commanders.
Yeah,
and that was the Eagles Carson Wentz, homecoming thingamajig. But yeah, that's right. The Jaguars lost to the Commanders.
There's too many revenge narratives going on.
Yeah,
I can't keep them all straight.
Yeah, that's funny. And I think it's cool that they bounce back. I think that's actually a real testament to the Jaguars of losing to a team that everyone thought was going to stink and probably actually still does, and then coming back and shutting out the Colts and then putting on that display against the Chargers, like after losing your first game and not, losing the locker room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And, I'm not like a huge Trevor Lawrence fan or anything, but maybe last year was like what he needed for his career. Just because he came in like never losing a football game ever. And dude, remember, he was pretty cocky coming into the league. Like saying like, if I get drafted by, who was it, the Giants, like I won't play, like, or whatever. Like I just remember there's like, he talked a lot of smack on social media and stuff. So maybe it was good. He got humbled last year. We don't hear too much about him outside of the game now. Maybe it's just because I'm not receiving any news on him, but I think.
Well, I think you're right. They're in a position to succeed. Trevor Lawrence looks like, I think, taking some losses and now coming back and showing that I was a number 1 overall pick and I can still be that is a big deal. So I hope they do good. I want to see them become a good team. I think that'd be fun for Jacksonville, Florida, to have a good team again. They haven't really been much since they were Saxonville with Blake Bortles. So
that's right.
That's been a little while since then. Almost everyone is gone, if not everyone.
Yeah.
But look,
man, they deserve to have a good year.
Real quick transition though, because we brought up Carson Wentz, we brought up Doug Peterson, and we need to talk about their old team, the Philadelphia Eagles, and Jalen Hurts, because this is where I'll eat humble pie. I will also continue to still defend my stance while I do it. I did not go into this season thinking Jalen Hurts was legit. Obviously, through 3 weeks, he's been undeniably good. Just like throwing the ball, running the ball, he's been amazing. Are you guys convinced now that he's a real, like, he's here to stay starting quarterback in this league? Or do you still have your reservations about it?
He put in the work in the offseason. I'm not going to say it can't happen. I still think he still has a lot to prove. Because they did beat the Lions, they beat the Vikings in prime time, and Washington.
Yeah.
So, like, I still think I think that he solidified himself getting a contract from them. Whether or not that's a good idea or not, I'm not 100% sold, but I wouldn't sell that stock. I think that he's a poor man's Lamar, which isn't a bad thing to be. Lamar he wins a lot of games, and you can say what you want about Lamar, and he's someone we can talk about too. Not very accurate, runs around, but makes plays. If you're winning games with your quarterback, you might as well just stick with him, and they did. They made the playoffs with them last year. That was someone I said back before they were even close to wild card contention. They came back and had a winning streak and got that 7th seed. I was like, you watch out for those Eagles, and they play tough. And I think Jalen Hurts fits what they're trying to do there. So
I guess if I can really extract your deep opinion, if you had to put money on it this year, do you expect him to kind of keep up this level of production and just end up having a phenomenal season? Or do you think there's a sort of thing where teams are going to sort of figure out Jalen Hurts and figure out that offense, and they're going to kind of get solved throughout the season and not look so great?
No, I don't think that. I think that they'll have continued success. I don't think they'll get figured out. I think because you could say that again. You could say that about Lamar, but he still figures it out. I think that he's going to have a great season this year. I think that he could even he might even be an MVP candidate. And yeah, the Eagles win the division, and the Eagles will like him and they'll sign him. Long term, however, I'm not sure. I think this season he'll be very good. I think that he will dominate this season. Seasons to come, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, like maybe enough of the stars have aligned this season, but it doesn't mean they always.
Yeah.
I do think though, and I haven't watched like a full Eagles game all the way through yet this season, but I've watched the highlights of every single one of their games and parts and quarters and stuff. But I still think Lamar Jackson's better. I kind of agree he's like a poor man's Lamar Jackson. But I do think his accuracy so far this season is like almost.
It's a lot better than last season.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, from what I've seen, it's like Lamar Jackson MVP. Like Lamar Jackson MVP season, he was just, maybe it's just the improvement. Because do you remember, like, from the year before to that season, his accuracy was all of a sudden like, it was so much better, and you could tell he was way more confident in the air. My biggest thing, and I feel about this, I feel this way about Lamar Jackson too, is he's just a quarterback that plays like that is always like a much larger liability. Because guys like that, they take hits. They make themselves vulnerable for leg injuries. Where, if they're good, it's never an issue. But I just feel like if someone's having a bad day and they really don't like Lamar or Jalen Hurts, they could hurt him pretty easily. So they're kind of at the mercy of the attitude of the defensive players. And I'm going to be honest, it's fun to watch them. It's fun to watch that play style, but I prefer like a traditional quarterback play style more.
Well, we'll talk about Lamar. We're going to need to talk about Lamar because right now, through 3 weeks, the MVP race is between poor man's Lamar and Lamar. So
yeah, I agree.
So we'll get to it. Look, I do want to put my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
I am of the opinion, I actually do think the Eagles are going to, I'm going to call my shot. I think they're going to miss the playoffs. I don't think this success is going to continue. Namely, you point out their competition, the Lions, the Commanders, the Vikings in primetime, which is that's like the 0-16 Browns. That just doesn't count. He's been great so far. I'm not convinced. I don't have too much to base that off of other than gut feeling and then seeing some of Jalen Hurts play last year where he's on right now, but we've seen games where he's not on and he does not look great. I think that version of Jalen Hurts is going to come back. He's going to have some bad games and then some games where it's just not enough against good competition. So that's my claim.
There will be defenses that shut him down for sure this year. I mean, they're not going to go 17-0, but I think that's a bold claim just because I'm like, okay, so if the Eagles don't make the playoffs, who wins the NFC East?
Well, that's the part of my prediction that you would like, my friends. I think the Cowboys. For one, you've it's been nice. I feel like are you guys 1-2 or 2-1?
2-1.
2-1 with a Dak Prescott who even before he was injured couldn't hit CeeDee Lamb or any of the receivers for anything, and then Cooper Rush through 2 games. I think you guys are getting enough out of Cooper Rush, and when Dak comes back, I think I'll say this does hinge the Cowboys thing on how Dak looks when he comes back from the thumb injury. I really hope they don't rush him out too quick because I feel like that's what happened with Russell last year, and he looked bad for at least a few weeks. And Cooper Rush has not been bad. I mean, of course, Austin, you'll need to talk about that. But I think he's done really well as a backup quarterback. I mean, I don't think you can deny that. Winning games when you're a backup quarterback, you can't ask for any more than that at all.
No, so. I can't at all. I'm impressed because he's the Cooper Rush I hoped he was a long time ago. But I think Cooper Rush is benefiting. I like the play calling so much better when he's the quarterback because it's more grounded. And I hope that they keep the kind of the same game plan for Dak as they have been for. I'm shocked, to be honest, that they've won 2 games with Cooper Rush, that they've won it all. Because I'm like, man, we suck. But the defense is better than I thought. Like, I knew the defense is good, but I didn't know it was this good. And,
dude, Myles Garrett, man. Or not Myles Garrett.
What are you talking about?
Not Myles Garrett. You're talking about
right?
Yeah. Who? Micah Parsons?
Yeah, Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Dude, he's a beast, man.
He is, yeah. And the running game is good. Like it's pretty balanced with Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. And Ezekiel Elliott's not rookie season Ezekiel Elliott, but I think he's underrated at this point. He's what the Cowboys need. He's the thunder to Pollard's lightning, and he ran really well last last week, and so yeah, all that's worrisome is the lack of weapons and healthy Dak for the Cowboys. Yeah, they could win the division. I don't know. The Eagles' defense is also really good. I don't know if Cowboys' offense has enough oomph for Philly. I hope so. I mean, it pains me, it kills me to say that the Eagles could win the division, but I'm just so down. I'm just so down on the Cowboys.
I just want to see. Here's what I want to see out of the Eagles that I don't think an environment they'll be able to win in, and that's a shootout, high offense on high offense situation. If a team is moving the ball consistently on the Eagles and they don't have an answer on defense and they're playing from behind, that's where I'm like, I don't know if Jalen Hurts has that thing in him where he's going to go win games. I think they're a great team when they have a lead, though, because they can get a lead and maintain that leading. But that's why I bring up the Cowboys. I think when Dak is playing well, like we've seen in Dak's range of outcomes, when he's on, he can have a shootout with the best of the best. That's something he can do. So and with that good defense, if they figure it out, if coaching doesn't get in the way, that's where my hope in the Cowboys lies. So,
well, I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you're right.
I mean, obviously Dak's your guy for a long time, but
yeah,
like on a scale of 1 to 10, if Cooper Rush kind of maintains his performance and maybe like his overall passer rating and QB percentage and stuff, like how happy would you be with him for the season? I mean,
if he had to finish the season if Dak couldn't come back.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Dak will obviously come back, but I don't know.
I mean, I like that question though. I think that's a good question, Thomas.
It's like
how would you feel?
Yeah,
I'd be fine. I'd be fine with it. He's been managing the game. I mean, he's been in the not a shootout, but close games with Joe Burrow. A close game with Joe Burrow. He was in a close game with Daniel Jones, which isn't saying much, but won the game. I wouldn't be upset. It's not like watching Brandon Whedon out there, like season's over. It's not like watching Matt Castle out there. So
it's just
I'd be fine with that.
I'm looking at his stats from especially against the Giants this week. Like
he was good.
His completion percentage was almost 68%.
Yeah.
Solid. It reminds me.
He hasn't thrown an interception, which is huge for a backup to come in and not throw interceptions.
It reminds me of Brock Osweiler when the Denver Broncos made their Super Bowl run, where Peyton Manning went down early and everyone counted him out, but then we had a backup quarterback that didn't light up the league at all, but didn't need to, just did enough with a really solid defense to win games. The only difference is you guys have hoped to get your starting quarterback much sooner, which I don't know. I think you guys are not a bad place.
The Cowboys could be pretty similar to that Denver team. They just don't have the weapons that Denver had, but I'm not saying the defense is as good, but they've got a 1-2 punch in DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons as a pass rush, like Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, and they've got ball hawking Trayvon Diggs. Linebackers are decent.
Oh yeah, you guys are good. I want to get Dak back. You'll be way more explosive than the 2015 Broncos for sure.
Yeah. Well, if CeeDee Lamb could do the catch that he had at the end of the game and not drop the easy one, catch those too, that'd be good. I was like, man, CeeDee, you got like the yips or something, because he was playing like pretty bad most of the game, and I was like, come on, dude, catch the ball. It's not that hard. But at the end of the game, came up clutch. I don't know if that the media redeems him for that, but I still am like holding him accountable. I'm like, come on, man, you gotta catch the easy ones.
Yeah. A one-handed catch will get you. All is forgiven by the media. That's for sure. See that? That was kind of like Odell. That was a little bit like OBJ.
Yeah. Now, you can't do any wrong once you have a sweet one-handed catch. But anyway,
but we'll see. Okay, so backtracking a little bit and transitioning to the rich man's Lamar, also known as Lamar Jackson.
The Lamar.
He has been completely unstoppable so far, but I know, Thomas, you got the stuff there. What's their record right now, Baltimore? Are they 2-1 or 1-2?
2-1. They just lost to the Dolphins, right?
They lost to the Dolphins week 2. And who did they just beat this week?
New England.
New England, with Mac Jones going out with an injury in that game.
Yeah. But he played like a madman in that game too.
Yeah, he's a man on a mission. He looks completely like his MVP year through 3 weeks, like absolutely unstoppable.
I think there's a lot of I think Lamar has a lot of intangibles. Do you remember the game last year? Oh, I'm trying to remember who it was against. It was just like an absolute shootout, but Lamar came like 2 or 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter and sealed the deal. I don't know, because I'm comparing his and Jalen Hurts stats next to each other. Dude,
Nick, can you read them out? Can you say what their stats are?
Okay, so let me go down here. So Lamar Jackson stats for the year right now. Completion percentage 64%. Yards, completion percentage. Well, it's not giving me. Oh yeah, okay. Completion percentage is 63%, almost 64%. He's got 749 yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Those are all even passing yards.
His QB rating is 119 average, which is like.
And how many rushing yards does he have so far and rushing touchdowns? Do you see that?
Let me see. Does it show me that down here? That's passing, rushing, receiving. Let's see. Yeah, he's got 243 rushing yards on the season so far.
Through 3 games.
In
a
3
quarterback
games,
is
that's
almost
really good.
That means he's on a pace.
I didn't look at that.
He's on pace to have almost 1,500 receiving yards this year.
You mean rushing yards?
Like 1,300 rushing yards. Sorry, rushing yards. That's
where Jalen Hurts is only 167, which is still pretty dang good. But here's the deal: listen to Jalen Hurts' stats, okay? Like for passing, his completion percentage is 67%, so over 3% more. He's got more yards at 916. He's only got 1 interception. In the end, his QB rating is only 106 versus the 119. But it's that's the thing. I don't know if he's the poor man's. He's more like the upper middle class man's Lamar Jackson. That's the thing. They're pretty comparable. I think the main difference now is Lamar has more of those intangibles developed, and I think. Well, I don't know. The Eagles look pretty good, but one thing that works really well for Lamar Jackson is he's got other very decent running backs.
Kind of. Well, they've been injury plagued for a long time, so right now he really doesn't.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'd give that upper hand to Jalen Hurts with Miles Sanders.
I what team overall do you think besides the quarterback is better right now? The Eagles? The Eagles defense is spectacular, but
I would give it to the Eagles as far as a team overall. I think with their receivers, AJ Brown's a legit wide receiver one. Devonta Smith is an up and coming second year wide out. Miles Sanders is legit great defense. I do think the Eagles are more complete. Again, my biggest thing for the Baltimore Ravens is what weapons do they have for Lamar Jackson? And they gave away Hollywood Brown to the Cardinals, so
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, it's pretty much like the Mark Andrews show when it comes to pass catching.
Yeah.
The thing about the difference between, I think, perception for Lamar and Jalen Hurts is Lamar lit up the league as soon as he replaced Joe Flacco, whereas Jalen Hurts has been a slow development. But I don't even say slow, because
it's only his third year.
It's his third year? I couldn't remember if he was drafted last year or the year before, but
like last year was his first full year.
Yeah, last year was his first full year, but he was benched the year before, right?
He was just behind Carson Wentz.
Yeah, he's backing up Carson Wentz. Yeah. So, yeah, like it's more like he didn't have a great first impression, whereas Lamar did. Like, took over for Joe Flacco and resurrected the Ravens into the playoffs.
That's the thing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, no, you go ahead.
I think like Jalen Hurts will probably always, like, if they both are starters for 10 plus years, Jalen Hurts will probably always live in Lamar Jackson's shadow. Like, because Lamar's kind of been the pioneer of this play style for this kind of like era of football. And I mean, like, obviously if Lamar started sucking and Jalen got better, but all things staying the same, Jalen Hurts, they'll always be compared with each other, and Lamar Jackson has won an MVP and introduced.
Lamar has cemented himself. He's like the Xerox of rushing dual threat quarterbacks at this point. Like, anyone who can run really effectively and throw it, they're like, he's like Lamar Jackson now. You know what I mean? So he's the prototype for it. So anyone who's going to supplant him in that role, it's a uphill battle. They need to show up and really play well. But yeah, I mean, and the Ravens, they're one Miami Miracle away from being 3-0 as well. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, by all accounts, everyone thought they'd be 3-0. We're not for Tua Tagovailoa having the craziest fourth quarter we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I wish I could have watched that game live.
Well, I do want to go back to something that you said earlier, Thomas, about how you like pocket passers. And I'm going to premise this with, I agree with you, Thomas, that a guy that could throw from the pocket and just throw accurate passes is something I'd prefer. But, like, quarterbacks are at a premium in this league. Like, you don't just get a good one. So, like, if you have a Lamar Jackson or a Jalen Hurts, even, like, if it just gives you 4 years of contention, like, that's better than being the Browns for 20 years hunting for the franchise quarterback, if you got a 4-year window is better than a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I agree.
It is.
Well, that's the thing is, I think obviously with a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, and here's the thing, the Baltimore Ravens have done well, where as soon as they saw, like, I guess his potential, they really started to build the team and the offense around him, and like kind of play around at his strengths. But the nice thing about that is, like, it just overall, you have so many more options. like the way your offense can play even within a game. You know what I mean? Which is really, really nice, super versatile. But let me ask you this, Austin.
Yeah.
Like right now, if you were to be, and Parker too, if you were like a head coach, like, hey, you're gonna head coach a team next year, and you can have some hypothetical, non-existent player that's like Lamar Jackson in that play style, and you can build a team around that, or you can have a traditional pocket passer, deep throws. Or like, what in this day and age, the way the NFL is right now, what do you think would give you a better chance?
Well, real quick, I'll answer that, but I wanted to give my 2 cents that'll help with this discussion about pure pocket passers. And I think that terminology describes a quarterback that can no longer exist in the NFL. For example, of young, considered high caliber quarterbacks that you would put in the pocket, like a pocket passer sort of circle. Like, who do you put in there? Like, I'm thinking the ones that in the back there. Maybe Patrick Mahomes, maybe Joe Burrow to a degree. Maybe
are we talking good quarterbacks? Because I would say, like, yeah, I mean they're mostly pocket passers.
But
sure,
they're also both like.
But what I'm saying, there's the key here is they all can run when they need to.
Yeah.
All of them can. There's not. I can't think of a single who's a younger quarterback who doesn't run. There's none of the Peyton Mannings. There's none of the Tom Brady's that it's not really an option for them. All these young guys, it's in their playbook, and they can stand up in the pocket and throw the ball. So that's why I guess you just got to take out the pure out of pure pocket passer, because you need to be able to throw in the pocket. But
I don't think I think you have to be a true dual threat, and that's been the biggest criticism of Lamar.
Yeah.
People weren't sure if the pass has to be believable for the running to work as a quarterback, right?
Yes.
In the end, when it's 2 minutes in the fourth quarter, and you have no timeouts, scrambling and running for the first down is the death of your drive, right? The ability to accurately throw the ball down the field is a requirement to be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
And whereas I don't think running necessarily is, but Tom Brady, we can say what we want, but in 2020 at 40-something, he won a Super Bowl, right? So it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
It's not. But I feel like it doesn't exist. There's no more new talent like that. They're grandfathered in,
Right.
Tom Brady, because he came in an era where that was. And I'm not saying there can't be. I'm just saying of what exists now, I don't see it anywhere.
But this is why people think, why I've always liked Russell Wilson as a runner is when he does, I take out what we've seen the past 3 games, but when I first saw him play, when I came back from my mission and Russell Wilson was a thing, the first time I watched him play, I was like, holy shiz, that was a nice ball. He throws a nice ball. And I that's what makes Russell Wilson effective when he's running around scrambling, is he can, when he's on, he can thread that ball to whoever he wants. It's such a nice ball. Same with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray throws a beautiful ball, pinpoint accuracy, but he's also got the running that helps. But if Kyler didn't have that throw, and all he had was his running around ability, but he wasn't as accurate, I would be counting the Cardinals out.
Yeah.
Right? And that's Lamar's criticism. Like, Lamar is a less accurate Kyler Murray, and that's why he hasn't been getting the credit he deserves. And I think what's partly been holding them back from getting farther than the divisional round in the AFC is when push comes to shove, like, he hasn't shown the ability to be able to have his arm be a true threat late in games.
I completely agree.
Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Josh Allen, like, they can throw it, but they can also run. But because they can throw it, it's so much more effective.
Absolutely. So I guess how I would frame it if it were me, looking at like the young talent of quarterbacks, to me, like Austin said, to even be considered, you need to be able to throw the ball. There's no quarterback that runs good enough and doesn't throw. You're just a running back at that point. But I think there's classifications of you're a quarterback that has a great arm, great accuracy, plus the added bonus, you can also run or move around when you need to, versus Lamar Jackson, where you have elite level speed and running ability, and you have proficient to very good throwing. But that's not what, if there's just a caption of what you are, it's the running that's going to describe your game. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, that's my question.
That's what I see as the two camps of quarterbacks and what you want to go with.
Yeah, like, because I think that's a really good point you bring up, is all young quarterbacks can do both, but it's very clear and apparent which one is their strength. Like, for example, Josh Allen, he can do both, but throwing and accuracy and pocket passing and all that stuff, I think, would be his strength. Because if it wasn't, they would be playing him more like Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson.
But that's a transformation from when he came into the league.
That's true.
Because at first he was a guy who can run, and his throwing was questionable, and he's just upped his game, and now he's, like you said, he's viewed as like a great thrower of the ball. Look, in the end, if I'm going to answer one, I am going to go with the quarterback that's better at throwing the ball, because they seem to be the one that wins Super Bowls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Matt Stafford last year, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. These are the guys taking home hardware for the past good long while. It seems like running quarterbacks have their day in the sun when it's the regular season, and then when push comes to shove in December and January, it hasn't panned out yet for that camp.
Yeah, and to your point, Parker, earlier, as far as the Eagles season, I don't think that they'll even make it to the Super Bowl. A lot of people, media, are crowning them best team in the NFC. No.
Yeah. Well, that's
I think Jalen Hurts is the key to that. Is the problem for that roster of them not making it all the way. So in that vein, like, I think you're absolutely right. I think they'll win a lot of games during the regular season, but I don't. They're not my NFC favorite.
Mm-hmm. And you got to remember too is, like later in the season, getting into early next year, it's cold. January and stuff. Lots of games are cold. Where it's like, yeah, that does mean typically teams will default more to running. But same thing, if you take these players and they can't throw at all, like they're not serviceable at all in passing, like you still got to be able to throw. If anything, you got to be super accurate when you do throw in those games. And that's where Lamar and Jalen Hurts could really fall short in the playoffs and stuff is, yeah, they're serviceable, but when it's January and it's cold and you got to make an accurate throw to stay in the game, that's where I feel like they're the most vulnerable compared to these quarterbacks that have more accuracy, better arms.
We'll have to see, because through 3 weeks, these two guys we're talking about, they're throwing the ball around. So they'll have to regress for that to be viewed as an issue, which I do predict. But I guess real quick, one little subject I want to talk about. We're at week 4, where I think by week 4, some teams, namely the 0-3, some 1-2 teams, like, it's sad, but statistics show the door is already closed on your season. Like, once you hit 0-3, the percentage of teams that make the playoffs, I think it's like somewhere, it's like less than 8%, like 6% if I had to guess. I just want to talk, okay, this can branch out to all other divisions, but let's start with mine because that's what I'm watching. We're looking at the AFC West, which was supposed to be, people were saying, the first ever division with all 4 teams to potentially make the playoffs. And the Chargers are 1-2. The Raiders are 0-3. The Chiefs just lost to the Colts, and the Broncos lost to the Seahawks and are barely limping out with a couple victories. Like, that division is not panning out. But if we can't talk about it all. So let's talk about the Raiders real quick. Because I think that, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm shocked.
I'm frustrated for those fans. Like, they deserve, out of anyone in the league, they should be the most frustrated right now.
And I know, and I'm thinking of the losses.
Besides
they lost.
Broncos fans, I guess, but at least you want to get.
Oh, we love it. But the Raiders lost real bad to the Cardinals in week 2. Well, they lost, meaning they were up until the second half, and then it was almost like Miami versus Baltimore comeback. This past week, the Raiders lost to. Do you have that? Do you have that stuff done for you? Who?
Lost to the Titans.
Right.
I watched some of that game, and the Titans controlled the game the whole time. The Raiders never felt like they ever had a chance. They started to make a comeback at the end, but it was too little, too late. And the score makes it look like it was a lot closer than it was.
Yeah.
The Raiders were terrible that game.
So what are you putting it on then? Like, what if you have to describe their failure?
It was hiring Josh McDaniels. That I think, I can't remember the guy's name that they had before, but the guy that replaced John Gruden, I'm totally blanking on his name, like, had a whole grip on that team. Everything was in chaos. Henry Ruggs, had his thing, and there were people going to jail, and and for emails and all this stuff, all this crap.
So true.
They beat the Chargers in Week 17 to make the playoffs, and then you get rid of them. I'm like, I know, like, you don't want to just like give it to the interim coach, right? You want to see your options, but
he earned it.
Managed all that chaos, and like brought the Raiders, kept them afloat. It was, was doing better than John Gruden. I don't know why you went after Josh McDaniels, who failed in Denver, and then he was flaky to Indianapolis and went back to New England before deciding he's coach of the Raiders. I don't know why you make that change, and I've never agreed with it, even before the 0-3. I thought the talent of the Raiders was good enough to overcome whatever that head coaching change, and I wasn't sure if Josh McDaniels had changed, but like, you got to go with the guy that righted the ship. I think it's a head coaching failure. Derek Carr had a great relationship with the other guy. I'm sure he has a good relationship with Josh McDaniels, but like, they didn't go through the ringer together. They didn't fight that fire last season.
The other
together.
guy, you mean that interim coach? I can't remember his name. Is that who you're talking?
I can't remember his name. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, the interim coach. Yeah, I can't remember. It was some. Yeah. Someday. I'm really blanking on it.
I can't remember either, but I totally agree. They have a roster which is loaded. I mean,
Yeah.
just with your weapons, you add Devontae Adams, the best receiver in football, arguably, to an already talented group with Hunter Renfrow, who really had a great year last year. Darren Waller, one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the league. So it's not like they only have one guy on offense.
Yeah.
A good running back, a solid running back, and what should have been a really solid defense, but a defense that's really underperforming this year. And an offense, Derek Carr doesn't seem to be able to get the ball to Devontae Adams. And I think you're right. When you have that much talent and it's just and you go 0-3, I think you got to look. Okay, I'll say too. I'm not a Derek Carr believer too, so I think Derek Carr isn't the answer, hasn't been the answer. So I would also put some bit on him. And I made the other prediction I made earlier is that this will be Derek Carr's last year in Vegas.
Yeah, you just said that this week, right? In our text thread.
Yeah, probably this week or last week. But I think he's going to be done. But I think Josh McDaniels as head coach, that was a bad decision. That was it. Yeah, that was dumb.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I put it mostly on Josh McDaniels. Derek Carr gets some of the blame. And yeah, it's a train wreck that I feel like I should have saw it coming, but didn't. I thought they'd at least be as good as last year. Like I thought they were a 9-8 team. I didn't think they'd. I thought they'd be fourth place in the division, but I thought the division was so good that they'd still have a winning record and still be last place in that division. But I don't know if they're probably not going to make it to 9-8.
And then Chargers starting 1-2. And I know one of those losses was Chiefs, which not that many people are going to get on them for that, especially because Herbert got injured during that game. And then they lost, but they lost this week to the Jaguars, right? Those right.
Yeah.
What? Definitely, some people are a little worried about them too. Are you guys worried about the Chargers going forward, or is this just a byproduct of the injury? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I honestly feel like there's still a lot of season left for that whole division, and I think it'll pan out all teams being better than what it looks like right now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to make any bold predictions or anything, but I feel like it's been a rough start, but there's just too much talent. There's just too much good in that division for it to not pan out.
Yeah,
I'm worried about the Chargers. I between the injury and I'm becoming less and less of a Brandon Staley believer. So the AFC is a good conference, and they're the Chargers, and they just find ways to lose. I know that's not like a logical argument, but it's a NFL lore NFL lore argument.
It's so true, and that's one. Man, I've been pondering about this recently. How is it that franchises continue to be who they are despite changing everything?
Yeah.
And look, I'll admit, I'm thinking that a lot watching the Broncos. Like, I'm watching Denver on primetime with Russell Wilson at quarterback. And I'm like, how is this worse than Drew Lock, even?
Yeah, you're like,
worse than Teddy Bridgewater. Look, yeah, and I'm thinking, like, how is it that teams just stay who they are, like, for decades, years? Like, They change everything, but there's still that. It's crazy. But look, yeah, I'll say this about that game real quick. For one, it was a freaking snooze fest, like all Broncos games are. But it's been a while since I've seen my Broncos win a game, and my outlook on them has gone more negative than this game. I felt better at 1-1 than I do at 2-1. Like, I felt a lot better at 1-1 because back then I thought we were competent coaching away from being good, and now I'm really nervous about Russell Wilson. I'm really nervous. And not to say that I don't think he can figure it out, but it's really hard to imagine him going from what I've seen through 3 weeks to seeing what we traded for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could see him going from what we've seen so far to being pretty good, even very good, but not what we just paid $250 million for, not what we gave 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders for. So,
if I were to say anything to comfort you, which I don't want to because you stole Russell Wilson from me, but I'm also like, maybe that was a good thing. But no, to give you some comfort, Parker, I think one thing Russell Wilson, as a fan and observer for a long time, he's one of those guys, he doesn't get hot until the fourth quarter. Like, he's always, in every aspect of the game, a slow starter. Obviously, we've never witnessed him, like, transition to a new team and stuff, but it could be that. It could be a slow start to the season, but if it's anything like games I've seen Russell play and, seasons I've seen him play in and stuff, like, by the end of the season, I don't know. Sometimes he cools off at the end of like, in a season perspective, he usually starts hot and ends slow. But in a game perspective, he always starts slow, ends hot. So it could, that's the thing. Like, in the end, he's a slow starter, I think.
I would like to turn our attention to January of 2015. It was the 2014 NFL playoffs, the NFC Championship game
against
the Green Bay Packers. And Russell Wilson in that game, I want to say, didn't complete a pass in the entire first half. And somehow won that game in one of the craziest NFC Championship games I've ever seen in my life. And that was when we first became roommates and we started watching football together more regularly.
That game will live forever in my memory.
Weren't we at Cliff and Parker Davis's apartment watching that game?
Yeah.
No, it's that game, dude.
Yeah,
he started out.
But that's the Russell Wilson that's the Russell Wilson that he's always been. Like, I mean, he doesn't always start games not completing a pass for an entire half, but like what Thomas was saying, he is a really slow starter. And that's what I was like starting to say on our text thread on Sunday was like he's not a consistent quarterback, and he's never has been. Mm-hmm. And the consistent running game of Seattle kind of hides that a little bit. But it's always been the crazy end of the game heroics that has like built Russell Wilson's legacy.
Yeah.
And so he does have one of the career high passer ratings, at least he did before Patrick Mahomes entered the league, but I think for a long time he was second to Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
But he's more of a
even
things are going bad, and then all of a sudden I'm just gonna pull this win out of nowhere, he did.
It's even that last drive on Sunday, like
it's true.
It was rough all game. Then that last drive, dude, that was Russell Wilson.
It's true.
Usually it's not that like stark of a difference. But that's the thing. That's what you're paying for.
That's what I want to see. And it's funny because it's this year so far. Russell Wilson's best game was in Seattle. I would say, like the second half in Seattle, he was outplaying Geno pretty hard. We fumbled. Both our running backs fumbled on the 1 yard line, and then he got the ball taken out of his hands at the end of the fourth quarter. But that being said, we are 2 fumbles away from being 3-0, which is shocking to me.
Yeah, as bad as they've looked.
As bad as we've looked. And part of it is competition, no doubt. We haven't faced the stiffest competition. And one thing you can't knock is our defense looks legit. They look better than I've seen them in a long, long time. Because, man, they were out on the field constantly. I mean, both defenses were being put back on the field.
And that's one thing, too. I feel like overall, like, Russell Wilson's individual play has been interesting. Like a lot of overthrown passes, just like accuracy not there a lot of times. But I still put most of the blame on just like the coaching. Like I feel like the coaching hasn't allowed him to get in his groove.
Yeah, he'll have to get in the groove. And I'll say this last week was, from a just basic elementary kindergarten level game management, it was pretty much fine. Like there was no disgusting delay of game penalties, no serious mental blunders that I saw. There were 2 challenges that didn't go our way, but I actually thought both of them were good challenges that were like really tough calls. So I didn't blame them. But anyway, so I'm hoping that's the case, but I think I said last week, we're lucky to be 2-1, but unlucky to not be 3-0. That's weird.
But I think you should feel better because 2-1 gives you the cushion, especially with the Chiefs loss, the cushion to improve. Like if this is your floor, right? And you're 2-1, you can't get any worse. So you can only get better. And
until we start playing the Chiefs and the Chargers. Yeah.
And the Chargers are down. The Chargers are down. And they'll charger it up. And you might split with them, you may even sweep them. Especially like if the rib injury gets worse with Justin Herbert. But like I don't know. I wouldn't lose hope in the Broncos. I think they can figure it out. They've already made improvements. I heard Nathaniel Hackett has a guy to help manage the game in the booth for him. Like he's like, it's just like he humbled himself. That's too much for me. I need a guy that's tell me when to call timeout. Tell me how much the countdown the play clock.
Like your job though.
That's what when first read that I was kind of like, what this doesn't happen. But my next thought was this is actually legit though. Like that was actually that's the best move he's made. And lots of coaches, let's be honest, are too prideful to make a move like that. Like I don't care if you need to hire someone else to help you game manage better, freaking do it. That's the best move Hackett has made so far to earn my trust.
I'll give him that. Definitely.
It's good because
humility.
It's like you can either do that or step down as head coach. So why would you do that? You can still be the head coach. Like, okay, I make personnel decisions. I run practice, everything, is my final decision. But if you have a weakness in game management, why would that? Your only other option is to get fired. So
and to that point too, he's taken play calling upon himself, which lots of new offensive minded coaches are doing, and lots of them are managing games too. If he thinks he has a talent for play calling that is better than anyone he's going to hire, but for him, that makes it harder to game manage. It's almost like changing the role of a coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I do the play calling, and then the other things that coaches do, he delegates a little bit. It's different. It's weird, but I don't care.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
Is like,
I think that's great.
it could turn out to be that that's his one major weakness, and if this solves the problem, hey man,
Yeah,
if
someone
it's
has to
working,
buzz his ear. Hey, call a timeout right now, man. Hey, get that play in. Maybe he's counting down like, hey, 16, 15. So the crowd doesn't have to. Great, dude. Let's do it.
That was the
That's
best.
right.
That's like the most beautiful thing is when the crowd was counting down the play clock.
I'll say this though, Denver, the city of Denver has been ruthless so far, and it's crazy to see because through 6 years of mediocrity, through the Drew Locks and the Case Keenums and the Joe Flaccos, they've never booed. Denver doesn't boo, and it's because, and I know why it is, because we've never had hope until now. That's why we're booing now, because
Yeah.
it's
No,
been,
I agree.
feel like kind of bad, but
It's
they've been
weird
brutal.
to see an NFL fan base that, passionate. Like, they were nuts. Like, I was like that. Like, you don't see crowds like that much in the pros. But yeah, they were fired up. They were pissed most of the game.
Russell has been booed through all 3 weeks of the NFL so far. At one away game and 2 home games, he's getting a lot of boos. So, so it's been a rough going, but I hope it turns around like you guys say.
I cannot, like, there's no way Russell Wilson just like fizzles out in his career when he goes to a better place for himself. You know what I mean? I really don't put, and maybe I'm just still too biased, but I don't put that much blame on Russell.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I don't know. What are the teams we got to talk about? Any games or situations we really got to hit?
We've touched on it. Well, there's 2 games. We've touched on the Dolphins. Bills.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
Dolphins 3-0. Number 1 in the AFC. Ahead of the Bills in the division.
Despite a butt punt.
Dude,
Yeah.
That was crazy, man. That was here's the deal. I don't know why, but the Dolphins have got it. I don't even know what it is. They've got it, man. Like,
Yeah.
because they're beating, like, seriously, the Ravens and the Bills are, like, definitely, if you're gonna like come up with some Super Bowl contenders, like, it's them. And the Dolphins are beating them.
They're beating Titans of the AFC. So they're like cupcakes, like what the Eagles have beaten. This is the real deal, real steel here.
But at the same time, you guys tell me if you feel the same way or not. It's like, you guys have played well, but like, is this really, like, it feels so fragile to me, and I
know, and it's because it's the Dolphins. Like, for me, it's just, I'm looking at the past and my past view of the Dolphins, and I'm like, because still now I'm like, yeah, Super Bowl contenders, like, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens. Like, Dolphins doesn't even pop up in my head, but, like, the Dolphins have bested 2 of those teams. You know what I mean?
Let me paint you a picture of a team that sounds awful like you described. They always overperform. They seem really fragile. In fact, their quarterback is fragile. They've got good wide receivers, good run game. San Francisco 49ers. Like, Tua is just a better Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, really? You're making that comp?
Well, I'm saying, like, I said that he was better. I didn't say how much better. But like,
okay.
so like, look, Mike, what's his name? Yeah, Mike McDaniel is a student of Kyle Shanahan. Comes in, Tua is injury prone. He's not the most mobile. He's way more accurate than Garoppolo. He's actually got better weapons than Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are faster than Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. They got no-name running backs, just like San Francisco does. I'm not sure about Miami's defense, but like, it's pretty friggin' similar.
Except for Garoppolo couldn't come back in the fourth quarter against the Ravens in his wildest dreams.
Well, here's the difference. Tua is overall pick number 5. Jimmy Garoppolo was picked in like the second round. Tua went to Alabama. Jimmy Garoppolo went to some small school. Like, Tua is better than Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's why I think like San Francisco should have drafted either him or Mac Jones, because they're both better than Jimmy Garoppolo. And imagine what San Francisco could do if they just had someone that could win in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm making the comp because the only comp between Tua and Jimmy Garoppolo is that they're both injury prone. But like, Tua's not mobile. Neither is Jimmy. I mean, Tua's like a little mobile, but not like, he's not running around. He's not even Patrick Mahomes. If we're calling him a pocket passer, he's not even Patrick Mahomes athletic.
Mm-hmm.
But like,
true.
Like, but he delivers the ball in a simple offense where you get the ball in a short pass to the wide receiver and they go get yak.
Yeah.
And it's the same offense. So, like, I'm just saying, I like the Dolphins. Like, if the San Francisco can get the NFC Championship game into the Super Bowl multiple years with Jimmy Garoppolo, imagine what the Dolphins can do with Tua and faster guys on the perimeter.
Dude, that's the game. Oh, frick, dude. That's like... That's
what I'm saying. I'm like...
Pocket passing quarterback's dream is to have those two receivers. Right? Yeah.
So that, like, because you're like, oh, I can't, Thomas was just saying, like, I don't know if I can believe in the Dolphins, just the Dolphins, and that's how we feel about the 49ers. We're like, the 49ers, like, how you can't really believe in them, but somehow they always manage to make it deep in the playoffs whenever Jimmy's healthy. But, like, with Tua, imagine if the 49ers had Tua and not Jimmy. But with the Dolphins, faster receivers, I'm telling you, I think the Dolphins are for real, man.
Dude, here's one thing too, bro. So I just looked up Tua's stats for this year. Same thing. I think it's the whole bias, like Tua, like he's not good.
Yeah.
That's what the media's been telling us, right? So far this year, man, he's, let's see, 72% on his completion percentage, 925 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, overall QB rating of 117. Those are like, those numbers are better than Lamar Jackson.
I would love to see how many of those yards were after the catch, to be honest with you.
That's a very good point. But still, you got to remember, and for 3 games, one full half of a game, he was like zapped, like badonked, like his brains like were mush.
Yeah, and there's some people now, they're being investigated to see if they mishandled the concussion protocols with Tua. But
I wouldn't be surprised.
Me neither. But yeah, to your point, we knew going into this that Tua was an accurate thrower of the ball. That was kind of his thing, high percentage throws. And it seems that they just, rather than trying to convince him to just be a gunslinger, not that he's had some good throws this year, so I'm not going to say it was all yak. He's made some good throws, but most of them have been to wide open speedsters in Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, and just like Austin said, letting them go and get down the field, which is perfect. That's a great game plan for Tua. So they're scheming it up perfect for his talents. So,
I kind of like. Go ahead.
You disagree? I was just gonna say, I think when you have guys that fast and talented as Tyreek and this up and coming Jalen Waddle, like that's always an advantage. And if just Tua can get them the ball on good routes in space, then yeah, they're gonna keep having success and keep being able to move the ball and compete against good teams if they can keep scoring.
So you said this last week, I think. The same thing where it's like, yeah, it's really easy when your receivers are wide open all the time. Where I'm not denying that they are. Like they're definitely beating people. But I went back after our podcast last week and watched all the highlights from all the games so far this year on Tua. And yeah, like a lot of his passes are to a wide open person, but there's still a chunk that are not. And I really feel like he's doing it as good as anyone else could. Like he's getting the ball in the exact right spot. So yeah, like I agree with you, but I disagree. I just think, I'm the one that was like, dude, Tua's going to be good. Maybe I was like, it took a little longer than I thought, but I'm pretty pumped just because I was right on this. Like I think lots of us are still holding on to that stigma that the media gave him, and just the crap he had to go through with, his first season and Fitzpatrick and stuff. But I really do feel like that all those stigmas could be shedded away over the season, and it's just like a known fact. Like Tua's the real deal.
He couldn't be doing more to shatter that narrative than he has through 3 weeks. That's just an undeniable fact.
This honestly, it's not his rookie season, but it almost feels like Dak Prescott's like rookie season in the sense that like he's proving a lot of doubters wrong and he's playing super well. And it's kind of the same play style if you think about it.
I would disagree. I would say Tua is 10 times more accurate than Dak, even still at this point in Dak's career. But I would say Dak has a lot better scramble ability than Tua does. But I would say that's fair. But yeah, Dak had a great supporting cast his rookie year, and that's what Tua has, and that's what any young quarterback needs is a good supporting cast to lift you up.
Yeah. And Dak's rookie year, I feel like that the biggest player was Zeke. I thought he should have been offensive player of the year. That was what Dak got, right? Yeah,
rookie of the offensive rookie.
Offensive rookie. Anyway, but there's a good. I see the comparison there, Thomas. Yeah, okay, so real quick then. We've talked about the last 2 3-0 teams, which are the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins. Which one are you guys higher on of the 2 teams?
Dolphins.
The Dolphins, for sure.
Yeah. Dude.
And I'm a little biased because I hate the Eagles, and I think the league is way more fun when the Dolphins are good, which is not very often. So the league has gotten a lot more fun.
Yeah, I really do think though the Waddle Cheetah combo, like that's solid, man. Like that's fun to watch. It's better than the Eagles that really just have Jalen Hurts balling out.
Well then, okay, that was my second to last question, and barring we have to talk about anything else. I mean, we could talk about games forever, but I guess just a summation question though, going into week 4, who's your guys' now top team in the league through 3 weeks? Best
Top
team going
team.
forward would be another way to say it. Who do you still think is the best? I'll go first. Despite the loss, I'm still sticking with the Bills. I think the Bills are still the most complete team in the league. The Dolphins are just on an incredible run right now. Like they are they are they are as much momentum as you can have coming out of week 2, going into week 3. I think they loved the doubt that was placed on them. They're like, all right, that was a really, really impressive comeback. But you're going to lose to the Bills. Like, everyone knows you're going to lose to the Bills. And they came out and said, no, I mean, we're going to come out and play the Bills hard. And they won. But that being said, I think the Bills are still the best. Josh Allen still looks amazing. He might not be having as crazy of numbers as Lamar Jackson so far, but he's been just so solid, and that defense is still so good. I'm sticking with the Bills through 3 weeks.
I'll go. I would probably have gone Bills because I agree with everything you say, but just for the sake of being different, I'm looking at the divisions and I might go Miami. Because I'm just looking at everyone else and it's like, yeah, dude, Miami's already beat like the best of the best. And their division, I mean, that's the thing is like, right now they're winning their division as far as divisional matchups. They just have to play the Bills one more time this year. They will beat the Patriots and the Jets both times. So like I think the rest of their season, you know, they've gotten through the hard games besides one more matchup with the Bills. I think they coast into the playoffs. And in the playoffs, I think they have as good a chance as anyone, man. But they've proven that they can win shootouts. They've proven that they can get comebacks. I mean, barring everyone stays healthy and stuff, I'm going Dolphins on that answer.
I'm
Deeply meditating.
Pondering. I'm just kind of going through, thinking of all the teams. And as much as I want to agree with Thomas, I'm still going to have to say the Bills. But they do need to figure out how to stick with the run game. And I would advise the Chiefs the same, is figure out how to run the ball. I think if they can figure that out, then, you know, they'd be unstoppable. But as of right now, like, yeah. But despite that, the Bills just have such a good roster, and yeah, and like we've said, like Josh Allen can throw the ball as well as anyone, and he's got the running ability, better, as good, or you know, as almost anybody. So I'm gonna have to go Bills as well. As of right now, being the best team in the league, the team to beat, even though they've been beaten. I think that I'm really a matchup that I'm really excited for this week is I think the Bills and the Ravens play week 4, and I'm really excited to see how that goes in a game in September. On how actually, well, it'll be in October, I guess, but on how that goes, because that that to me is by far the most interesting game, to see how much Lamar has progressed and to see how the Bills bounce back after that loss to two quarterback titans with similar play styles, but both have different reps, but have only made it as far as each other in the playoffs. So it's an interesting matchup. I'm really excited about that one. But honestly, I wouldn't even put the Dolphins second. I'd put Baltimore second. I'm really excited about that matchup.
It'll be a good game.
That's gonna be a good game. I probably would have gone Kansas City second, but that's good. Like I said, I call the Eagles. They're gonna miss the playoffs, and the Miami Dolphins are gonna sneak in on a wild card.
That's sneak in on a wild card. I do agree. I thought about the Chiefs for a second, but then I was like, but they just lost, so I don't know. The AFC's stacked, man.
The Chiefs could easily be 3-0 without a lot of boneheaded mistakes. I watched that game too.
Yeah.
And the Colts played them really hard. The Chiefs had a hard time moving the ball. That was the game I probably watched the most besides, the Chiefs should have won. Chris Jones got a unsportsmanlike on 3rd and long when it was going to be 4th and long and the game was over. And it gave the Colts another chance to score, and the Colts took advantage. But by all accounts, the Chiefs should have won, but they really struggled, even so, to move the ball against the Colts. And they're another team. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 0 rushing yards on 7 attempts, and you got to do better than that. Yeah. That's why I don't have the Chiefs second. It's just because I watched that Colts game, and as hard as the Colts played them, it's still the Colts, and I don't know. You can't ever count the Chiefs out, but they got to figure out how to run the ball too.
Yeah, well, they have really since Kareem Hunt.
Yeah,
to be honest, consistently.
Andy Reid doesn't like running the ball, but it's still a necessary part of the game. It's still a healthy part of the game. It's still,
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I'm excited for week 4. You're right, Bills Ravens. That's going to be a game we're going to need to watch, and we're definitely going to talk about next time because I think we're going to learn a lot about how these quarterbacks are really going to go this season in this game. So I'm excited. I'm going to make sure I pencil that in. I watch that game this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming in, tuning into the podcast, sticking to the end. Have a good week. Later.
Oh, dude. Oh, your voice